Good morning. Welcome to another episode of The One Where. So, in essence, I have here a one where, the one where the shipment was uplifted in Ghana. So, what was really interesting in this case, the goods were uplifted in Ghana, and the customer reached out to us because their shipment was uplifted, but what was unclear was whether the Ghanaian authorities allowed release of goods under protest. So that means to allow the release of the goods against a guarantee, indicating that you do not agree with the assessed value of the goods, and therefore you request for the release of the goods for the purpose of clearance so that afterwards the dispute can continue. And so when the customer reached out to us, their goods were stuck. And ultimately, a lot of people in the Ghanaian authorities would obviously recommend to go the African way because it's very much a practice, local practice in the authorities or in just the general market. When the customer reached out to us, we basically said, well, let's look at the law. Let's see what the law says. And ultimately what happened was, even though Ghana is a member of the WTO and a member of GATT, and even though they have implemented a lot of the provisions of the World Trade Organization's customs agreement with regards to valuation and with regards to the elements of requesting evidence and asking for explanation in writing. All of these elements, what they didn't include from the provisions of the WTO at that time when the case was held, was the provision of allowing the request of the release of goods subject to a guarantee or release of the goods under protest to the decision in order for the goods to go into the market while the dispute is going on. So what was really interesting under this case was that you need to prepare yourself and understand the way the market operates. Even though they're a member of the WTO and even though they're a member of GATT, doesn't necessarily mean that they aim to follow GATT and they aim to follow the WTO agreement, but that doesn't necessarily mean that all of its provisions is captured in the local legislation. And it wasn't until we looked at that situation and said, okay, well, there is no release under goods under protest procedure in the customs legislation. So how do you approach then the situation? Well, that calls for a complete different strategy in approaching it from a compliance and a legal perspective. And that was the start of the case, the one where the customs shipment got uplifted in Ghana. See you next time. Bye-bye.